The innocent school beauty braved a massive storm to reach my door, just to spend the night. I turned her away. The next day, she was found brutally murdered in my alley. Consumed by guilt, I joined the police academy, obsessively hunting her killer. But the heavy rain had washed away all the evidence. For 10 whole years, I found absolutely nothing. Then, a sudden lightning strike sent me right back to this exact crossroads of fate. Gu, I heard your father is on a business trip, and you are home alone. Can I crash here for a few days? I will do chores. Staring at her, I subconsciously reached out. My first instinct was to hug her, but to avoid scaring her, I forcefully held back and froze in place. The icy touch on my fingertips and her slight trembling clearly told me the truth. She was still alive. I really came back. Sorry. Bai Wei panicked and stepped back, her foot slipping. I moved fast, grabbing her waist and pulling her straight into my arms. Amidst the roaring rain, total silence fell between us. She froze in my embrace, too scared to even move a muscle. I quickly let go and stepped back toward the light. You just looked freezing. Subconsciously wanted to warm you up. I am sorry. It is okay. I stepped aside to let her in. Looking at her completely pale face, memories flooded my mind. In my past life, the killer vanished after committing this crime. This time, I will not just save her. I will use my years of police training to catch the real killer tonight at the crime scene. Bai Wei stood nervously in the entryway, anxiously tugging at her shirt. Seeing me grab some slippers, she panicked. My socks are wet. I will ruin your slippers. Let me just go barefoot. I can mop the floor later. Being completely soaked alone with a guy on a stormy night made her incredibly anxious. She dug her nails deep into her palms, forcing herself to calm down. When I turned my back, she quickly scanned the room. Seeing the hot tea and messy boxes on the coffee table finally made her relax her tense shoulders. Use this for your hair, if you do not mind. Could I also borrow some clothes? Mine are pretty wet. I finally noticed she was tightly gripping her soaked shirt. Since you need to change anyway, you should take a hot bath. Otherwise you might catch a cold. The guest bathroom has no tub. Use the one in my room. I will go run the hot water. Hearing she had to use my personal shower, Bai Wei blushed, whispering a faint yes. Soon, splashing sounds echoed from the bathroom. Watching my busy reflection, Bai Wei finally gathered her courage. Gu, just call me by my name. Are you trying to ask why I did not ask about your real reason for coming here? Bai Wei looked up in shock, her eyes full of curiosity as she nodded. A beautiful girl like you, begging for shelter in a storm must have a serious reason. Since you do not want to talk about it, pushing you would just be rude. Hearing that, her eyes welled up with tears. I checked the water temperature, stood up, and slowly stepped right in front of her, suddenly slamming my hand against the wall right by her ear, trapping her in my arms. I am not worried about your motives, but are you not afraid that by staying here, I might try something bad? Leaning back against the wall, she gently bit her lower lip. A sudden warmth washed over me. I trust you, she said, her beautiful eyes staring boldly right into mine. That single answer completely ruined any chance of me testing her further. Remembering I had an important mission tonight, I smiled and pulled my hand away. Go take your bath, the clothes are ready. With your size, this hoodie is basically a dress on you anyway. Just make it work for now. Toss your wet clothes in the washer, then the dryer. They will be done fast. Okay, thank you. Bai Wei turned and walked into the bathroom. That thank you was partly for giving her shelter, and partly for my total understanding. Hearing the shower running, I smiled and left the bedroom to make some hot ginger tea. A little while later, the door opened. Bai Wei stepped out wearing my oversized hoodie, her cheeks flushed pink from the steam, revealing her pale skin just above the knees. I left some slippers out for you. Bai Wei slipped into the warm fuzzy footwear, her shyness fading away. Walking into the hallway, the sweet smell of honey ginger soup hit her. I walked over, holding the mug. My eyes drifted toward the loose collar of her hoodie, and my throat went dry. Here, drink this ginger tea. Bai Wei took the cup, taking tiny careful sips. Do you want me to cook you some noodles? Will that be too much trouble? Not at all. It just takes a few minutes. Grab a seat. I will even add 2 eggs for you. I started to stand up, but a tiny hand grabbed my arm. I know how to fry eggs. Let me help. In the kitchen, my quick knife skills completely shocked her. Within seconds, perfectly sliced tomatoes and ham sat on the cutting board. She stepped onto a small stool, standing on her tiptoes to reach the egg carton on the top shelf. As she stretched, the oversized hoodie rode up instantly. I caught a quick glimpse, and my face turned completely red. Noticing my stare, she panicked and yanked the fabric down. That made her lose her balance on the stool. I rushed forward to catch her from behind, but my hand accidentally slipped somewhere. It definitely should not have been. She went limp, falling straight into my arms. The sweet sandalwood from her hair mixed instantly with the citrus body wash. We both froze completely. We stood there until boiling water splashed from the pot, snapping us out of that heavy tension. I quickly pulled my hand back, took a step away, and shoved a spoon into her grip. You stir. I will grab eggs. Turning around, I caught a glimpse in the reflection in the glass, noticing my glowing red ears. Turns out, I was not totally immune to girls. Nobody else could ever make my heart race like this. Blushing hard, Bai Wei stared down and stirred the noodles. The loud sizzling from the frying pan perfectly covered up the crazy pounding of my heart. Soon, the rich smell of tomato soup filled the entire kitchen. I carried the bowls to the table, making sure to avoid her trembling fingers. Careful, It is hot. Put on whatever channel you want. But the second the TV screen lit up, she suddenly gripped her chopsticks tightly. The screen was blasting the adult movie I had completely forgotten to turn off. The scene playing was absolutely wild. I coughed awkwardly, grabbing the remote to switch to Crayon Shin-chan as fast as humanly possible. I totally forgot that in my past life, this was the exact reason I refused to let her inside. Luckily, my time as a cop gave me super thick skin. Without blushing or missing a single beat, I acted like nothing happened and changed the channel. She quickly changed the subject too. Wow, your cooking is actually incredible. I grabbed a tissue, gently wiping away the tiny drops of sweat on her nose. Breaking a sweat means the cold is leaving your body. Eat slowly, there is plenty more in the pot. She focused entirely on the food, finishing every last drop of the soup. She looked completely satisfied. Are you full after just one bowl? Yeah, right as she answered, a massive clap of thunder shook the window. Out of sheer habit, my eyes darted to the clock. 9:57. Just 30 minutes until the exact time of the murder in my past life. This time, I will expose the killer's true face. Running out of time, I got ready to leave for the crime scene immediately. I grabbed a glass of water and draped a warm blanket right over her shoulders. Since you are full, just watch TV here. I will wash the dishes later. I need to run out for some midnight snacks. I will be right back. You are going out in this crazy storm? It is fine, the store is really close. Reaching the door, I froze and spun around. A dark thought hit me. What if the killer had already followed her here and was hiding outside? Listen to me. Until I get back, no matter who rings that doorbell, do not open the door. I have my keys. I will not ring the bell. Hearing my serious tone, Bai Wei nodded like an obedient kitten, wrapping the heavy blanket tight around herself. As the front door clicked shut, she curled up alone on the sofa, staring into the completely empty room, quietly waiting for me to come back. I popped my black umbrella and stepped into the pouring rain. Checking my waterproof watch, it read 9:58 at night. The forensics in my past life put her death around 10:30. My main target tonight is the place she visited right before the 24-hour convenience store on Jinzi Road. Last time, she left her umbrella there, ate, and walked straight to that deadly alley. Even though she is safe in my house tonight, I had to be absolutely sure the timeline would not magically correct itself and force an innocent stranger to die in her place. I would never let that happen on my watch. Walking through the storm, I pulled out my phone to check the living room camera. She was still hugging her knees on the sofa, watching TV. Knowing she was perfectly safe inside my house without wandering off, I started walking much faster. The second I reached the convenience store, a muffled groan caught my ear. By the alley trash cans, a skinny kid was curled up on the ground. 3 street thugs were kicking him violently, screaming and demanding whatever he was holding tightly in his fist. Pinned to the wet pavement, the kid was desperately clutching a light gray handkerchief. A small tin box lay knocked over beside him. I recognized him instantly. It was Yuze, the quiet, bullied outcast from my own class. Hearing my voice, the violent thugs whipped their heads around, their faces turning completely pale. Because my family had serious power around Shanghai City, these street punks were absolutely terrified of me. I did not even lower my umbrella, before they scattered like terrified rats. The alley went dead silent, except for the heavy rain hammering the tin roof. I squatted down, holding my umbrella steadily over his shaking body. Are you okay? Let me get you to a hospital. On his wrist, I could clearly see the nasty burn scar from 3 months ago. I reached out to help him, but he flinched like I shocked him. His hand knocked the tin box right against the brick wall. A few crayons and half a bag of cat food spilled out into the muddy puddles. He just looked down, grabbing his dirty backpack, his soaked hair completely hiding his crying eyes. I spotted dark brown stains packed under his left fingernails. It looked exactly like dried blood. You are out feeding stray cats in this massive storm? Yeshi mumbled something back, then suddenly broke into a violent fit of coughing. My shoulders shivered in the freezing rain. I ripped off my jacket and tossed it to him. Your mom is out of town again, right? If you get sick, who watches your little brother? Right then, a vivid memory flashed. Security footage from my previous life. Back then, Bai Wei saw something outside the convenience store before stepping into that dark alley. Seeing Yeshi now, it all made perfect sense. Bai Wei must have witnessed him getting bullied. My mind raced through every tiny detail of that past life. If she left the store to stop the fight, her soaking wet clothes easily could have turned their bullying into pure harassment. I racked my brain, trying to remember that exact Monday from before. Yeshi had been beaten much worse back then, yet he barely reacted to her murder. That meant he probably fought like hell to hold those thugs back so she could escape. If those punks were not the killers, then the real murderer had to be someone else entirely. My investigator instincts kicked in, and I locked onto one crucial clue: the murder weapon. Whoever carried a deadly little knife in this storm was my prime suspect. Realizing those 3 thugs were highly likely to be carrying blades, I immediately regretted letting them walk away. As for the bruised and battered Yeshi, he survived until graduation last time. I had to leave him for now. If you are okay, get home safely. I turned to walk away but stopped, glancing down at his wrecked umbrella. I shoved my black umbrella straight into his hands. Yours is broken, so take mine. I have business to handle and cannot walk you back. Watch your back and head straight home. Before he could even object, I plunged right back into the massive storm and vanished. The rain was brutal, so those three punks had not gone far. They huddled under a broken awning, cursing and debating if they should bag my head. But my family connections kept them terrified to strike. While they stood there, hesitating, I sprinted through the rain and suddenly appeared right in front of them. The thugs jumped back in sheer panic, waving their hands, thinking I wanted cash. "Hey there, friends. I just need to borrow a little something." They exchanged nervous glances, completely on edge. "Do not worry. I am not asking for money. Something else." The three of them stared at me with completely blank expressions. I locked eyes with them and flashed a perfectly innocent smile. A blade. The punks stood totally frozen, clearly not grasping my request. "You three are supposed to be street toughs. Do not tell me you leave the house without a weapon." My little taunt worked like a charm. The green-haired guy got defensive, yanking a butterfly knife from his pocket and flipping it around to show off. One quick look was all I needed. This was absolutely not the clean-cutting fruit knife from the autopsy report. Way too flashy. "I will pay $100 for something simple, like a fruit knife." Hearing that cash offer, the other two scrambled to dig through their pockets. One pulled out a bulky Swiss Army knife, and the other grabbed a cold military blade, a standard folding hunting knife. Neither blade matched the murder weapon I was hunting for. Nice hardware, but sadly I only brought $100. Never mind. I totally ignored their angry shouts about being played, turning my back and stepping away. I plunged right back into the freezing rain. Those thugs did not have my murder weapon. That lead was completely dead. A fierce wave of anxiety burned in my chest. Honestly, the easiest way to crack this case was to reject her like last time. Then I could just shadow her and catch the true killer red-handed at the crime scene. But getting a second chance, seeing her alive and well, my heart simply could not take it. I would gladly choose an impossible search over risking her life. I refused to gamble with her safety ever again. I rushed back to the convenience store for an umbrella. The kind clerk handed me a fresh towel to dry my dripping hair. I muttered my thanks, wiped the cold water away, and sealed my phone inside a waterproof pouch. Next, mimicking Bai Wei's exact pace and movements from my previous life, I opened my umbrella and walked straight into the storm. The howling wind instantly tried to snap the metal frame. Crunching over deep mud and shattered glass, I finally reached the blind spot, the exact spot where the security cameras lost her. This was the precise crime scene burned into the old forensic reports. My waterproof watch cast a pale glow. 10:17 p.m. A sudden gust violently flipped my umbrella inside out, so I simply tossed it away. I let the freezing sheets of rain slam directly against my face. My phone buzzed inside its pouch. Leaning against a soaking wet brick wall, I pulled up my home security feed. Bathed in warm light, Bai Wei curled up on the sofa, rubbing her feet anxiously. Her eyes kept darting toward the front door. She looked so hopeful, yet completely terrified. "Just hold on a little longer. Stay safe." The clock hit 10:29 p.m. Suddenly, a sharp metallic clatter echoed from the far end of the alleyway. I instantly went on high alert and crept toward the noise. I was stunned to see a familiar face. Jiang Yan, the notorious bully from our high school. He sat under a rundown metal awning, casually peeling an apple with a little fruit knife. "Well, look who it is. Middle of the night, terrible storm, and no umbrella. What brings you out here?" "Just running a quick errand." The heavy wind completely destroyed my umbrella. Actually, out in this crazy weather, Jiang Yan used the tip of his blade to pick up a wrinkled apple from a plastic bag. I knew his tough guy reputation was totally fake. His family was dirt poor, and his mother suffered from severe kidney failure. Just bringing my mom some fresh fruit, but the nurses kicked me right out. The edges of his rain boots were caked in that anti-slip plaster from the hospital hallways. He smelled entirely like an intensive care unit. But my eyes were firmly locked onto exactly one thing. That small fruit knife gripped tightly in his hands. Every single detail matched the murder weapon from Bai Wei's autopsy file perfectly. "Why are you just standing in the rain? Get over here. My place is right around the corner. Let me lend you an umbrella." The second I stepped under that awning, his phone started ringing frantically. I could hear a nurse screaming on the other end. His mother's oxygen levels had crashed. The blood drained from his face, and the fruit knife splashed straight into a deep muddy puddle. Without saying a single word, he spun around and bolted like a madman into the storm. I knelt down and fished the blade out of the filthy water. The steel felt freezing cold. After checking it carefully, I knew for absolute certainty, right here, right now, the size and style were a flawless match. This was the exact weapon used to butcher her in my previous life. If he just dropped it here by accident, the true killer would likely walk past and find it within 30 minutes. I took a deep breath. I tossed the blade right back into the puddle. Trusting my years of investigative instinct, I melted into the shadows and waited silently. The rain hammered down. 10:35 p.m. A staggering homeless guy, reeking of cheap booze, stumbled under the metal roof. He kicked over an empty soda can. His muddy sneakers twisted down hard on the knife handle, burying the steel blade deep into the thick mud. He gripped his half-empty liquor bottle and wandered off into the night. 10:47 p.m. A delivery driver hit his brakes hard, accidentally stomping on the blade. The driver wiped out completely. Swearing loudly, he dragged himself up and kicked the shiny metal straight toward a storm drain. Black sludge instantly swallowed the weapon whole. The clock hit 10:55 p.m. Finding a blade completely buried under heavy sludge like that, It was basically impossible. Only a few precious minutes remained until her documented time of death from my old life. Suddenly, a masked figure wearing a dark raincoat slipped out from the alleyway. Hunched over, he walked directly toward that muddy puddle. He crouched down by the hidden blade. Every muscle in my body pulled tight like a loaded spring. The second he reached into the muck to grab the handle, his sleeve slipped. A massive chemical burn scar covered his wrist. I stormed right out of the shadows. Under the flickering streetlights, I got a crystal clear look at his face. It was the famously sweet chemistry teacher from our high school, Liu Ruyan. Shockwaves tore through my chest. Just 3 months ago, he jumped in to protect some messing around kids during a lab accident, burning himself with acid. He even kindly comforted the reckless students afterward. He was famous for being completely controlled by his wife. A flawless reputation. But if he was the killer, every single missing piece from my past life suddenly clicked together. That explained why she never tried to run in that dark alley. She completely trusted this gentle, fatherly teacher. If he offered her shelter from the heavy storm and promised to take her to his wife's house, on a terrifying night like that feeling totally helpless, she would never have suspected a thing. Realizing this made my stomach sick, but I could not just attack him. Right now, this man had not actually committed a crime yet. I decided to use an old interrogation trick to test him. I needed to figure out exactly why he was roaming around at midnight. Mr. Li. He snapped his head up. Seeing me completely drenched, his face twisted into an expression of deep concern. Gu Nanchang? Goodness. How did you get so soaking wet? Just caught out in the bad weather. Mr. Li, what on earth brings you outside in a dangerous storm like this? I locked my eyes right onto his face. My training instantly caught a tiny flicker of sheer panic in his eyes, just stepping out to buy a pack of cigarettes. A blatant lie. Everyone knew the man never smoked a day in his life. He was a dedicated family man. My raincoat is big enough for 2. Duck under here. I will walk you to my place and lend it to you. You can wear it straight home. He still wore that warm, grandfatherly smile on his face. Playing dumb, I nodded and slid underneath his heavy coat. While pressed together, I noticed his eyes dart toward an adult toy vending machine nearby, then quickly snap away. He threw a comforting arm over my shoulder. We walked the whole way back, with me pretending to be totally frozen in shock. Reaching his front door, he pulled out his phone, rapidly typed a message, and shoved it away. I actually forgot my keys today. Let me just wait a second. But I could clearly feel the metal key ring pressing right against his waist. This was his second blatant lie of the evening. Every alarm bell in my head was screaming. A moment later, the front door swung open. Standing there was his smiling wife. Shen Qingqiu wore a silk robe, her belt loose, cheeks flushed. The warm entryway light revealed an overturned wine bottle on the coffee table, lit candles, and scattered rose petals. A lingering romantic vibe filled the air. Suddenly, my mind cleared. Every single clue snapped into a perfectly logical timeline. Mr. Li planned a romantic night, but ran out of supplies. So he rushed out into the pouring rain. Always the good guy, he stopped to clear a clogged drain and accidentally picked up that fruit knife. Bumping into me made him embarrassed to buy his stuff, and he couldn't leave me alone. So he brought me here. Pretending he forgot his keys and texting? Just buying time for his wife to change out of her lingerie. All his weird behavior suddenly made total sense. How did you get so soaked? I'm so sorry. Here, use this towel. Thanks. I took it, rubbing my hair dry, but my previous doubts morphed into a much deeper confusion. If he was still the same good guy, with his wife eagerly waiting for him to come home, would a man like that really assault and murder a student on the street? Shen Qingqiu suddenly noticed the dirty knife in Li Mingyuan's hand. Where did you find that? She asked. It's filthy. Found it by the drain. It was blocking the trash. I bumped into goo here and forgot to toss it. Li Mingyuan turned, ready to throw the knife straight into the trash can. But a sudden chill hit me. Something was wrong. Wait, Mr. Li, let me see that. Looking confused, he flipped the knife, pointing the blade inward, and offering me the handle. That subconscious, protective gesture proved just how gentle he really was. I took the knife, studying it closely. My stomach dropped. It was too dark outside to see, but the blade's edge was visibly chipped. Jiang Yan must have used it to cut something rock hard. The autopsy report never mentioned a chipped blade. The wound marks would be completely different, which meant this wasn't the murder weapon at all. I was tracking the wrong guy. I whipped my wrist around, checking my watch. 11 p.m. The real killer might just be stepping into the streets right now. Panicking, I shoved the towel back to Shen Qingqiu. Sorry, Mr. Li, it's late. I gotta run. I'm borrowing your raincoat. I grabbed the handle, shoved the knife back into his hands, threw on the raincoat, and bolted into the pouring storm. I sprinted straight to the crime scene, frantically searching the area. A few pedestrians hurried past, but none looked like a predator ready to strike. 11:30 p.m. The streets were totally dead. I pulled out my phone and checked the living room camera. Bai Wei was curled on the couch, exhausted, head nodding off, but fighting sleep, constantly checking the door for me to come home. I clenched my fists, ripped off the raincoat, and kept pacing around the pitch-black crime scene. Midnight came and went. Still, not a single suspicious shadow in sight. A heavy, suffocating wave of dread and helplessness washed over me. Did I actually miss him? If I can't track this killer down, Bai Wei's tragic fate in that past life will never be rewritten. I tilted my head back, letting the freezing rain batter my face, my resolve hardening. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. I tapped the camera feed. Bai Wei looked totally exhausted, but swallowed her fear of the empty house and walked right up to the door, pacing back and forth, looking incredibly worried. "Hey, it's me." The sudden voice through the speaker made her jump. She immediately looked up at the camera lens. "I got held up with some stuff, but I'll be home soon. Go to sleep if you're tired, as long as you're safe." "I'm not tired. I'll wait for you." She forced a brave, gentle smile for the camera. "I promise I'm on my way." She dragged her exhausted body away, returning to curl up tightly under the blanket, looking visibly relieved. Staring down the empty street, I just stood there in the pouring storm. It was an old habit of mine. Freezing water jumpstarts my brain. I started frantically running through every single person I bumped into tonight. The convenience store clerk, Ye Si, those 3 thugs. I dragged every face onto my suspect list. Ye Si got robbed. His bag was dumped out. He didn't have a dime on him, let alone a murder weapon. Crossed off. The 3 thugs had motive, but their blades were completely the wrong shape. Crossed off. The homeless guy and the delivery driver? Dead ends. The knives didn't match. Once I crossed every impossible suspect off that list, my memory zeroed in on the one guy I thought was absolutely impossible, Jiang Yan. He sprinted to the hospital for his dying mother, dropping his knife here. But what if she stabilized? 30 minutes is plenty of time to run back. What if, on his way back, he realized his knife was gone and bought a new one at a corner store? The police file proved it. Between 10 and 11 p.m., someone bought a fruit knife in the pouring rain. And the timing of his return perfectly dodged the exact window. Mr. Li and I visited his house. Connecting the dots, Jiang Yan was suddenly my prime suspect. Proving this theory was easy. Just march up to his door and knock. If he was home and had a shiny new knife sitting there, he was dead to rights. I navigated from memory, approaching his place as my stomach dropped. His lights were actually on. I took a deep breath and hammered on the front door. It swung open. Jiang Yan stood there shirtless, a towel draped over his head. "Old Gu, what the hell? Why aren't you home yet? Whose raincoat is that?" I stepped inside, my eyes immediately locking onto a brand new fruit knife sitting right on the table. The mystery guy from the police file who bought a knife in the storm, it was really him. Mr. Li lent it to me. "You just get back?" "Yeah. Mom had a scare earlier. I rushed out so fast I forgot to lend you an umbrella." "What are you even doing out this late? You just love taking midnight strolls in a hurricane? When you bolted earlier, you dropped your knife. Why did you buy a brand new one?" "Damn it. I checked all my pockets and couldn't find the thing. Where did it fall?" "Mr. Li found it and tossed it in the trash." "Whatever then. That blade was totally chipped from chopping wood anyway. I just grabbed a fresh one on the way home." He laughed it off, but a dark pit formed in my stomach. His timeline lined up perfectly with the murder, and he bought the exact same weapon. I couldn't cross him off the list. Choosing my words carefully, I decided to push him directly. "We're friends, right? Friends? Man, we're brothers. Are you in some kind of trouble? Spit it out. Tell your boy." Watching his fiercely loyal reaction, I stared right into his eyes. "I never want to see you locked up for doing something stupid. Think about the consequences. Your mom needs you to take care of her. Don't cross that line." Jiang Yan just froze. He completely misunderstood what I was saying. He thought I'd busted his secret side hustle selling fake cigarettes at school. Instead of getting defensive, he looked deeply moved that I'd brave a storm just to warn him. "Relax, man. You know how I operate. I won't do anything reckless." Seeing I made my point, I stood up and headed for the door. I had no idea this accidental lecture just convinced him to ditch the fake cigarette hustle forever. I didn't know that as I stepped back out into the pouring rain, he was giving a cheesy chest thump behind my back, secretly vowing I was his absolute best friend for life. Head spinning, I left Jiang Yan's place. I snuck back to Mr. Li's house and quietly left his raincoat at the door. Hearing some muffled, fairly obvious romantic noises inside, I decided against knocking. Walking home through the torrential rain, I finally felt my chest loosen. If Jiang Yan truly was the killer, he was at least still salvageable. I could guide him away from that darkness. Out of everyone I crossed paths with tonight, for now nobody had a stronger motive. It was past midnight when I finally unlocked my front door. At the sound of the click, Bai Wei snapped awake in her blanket. Seeing me, a huge smile lit up her face. She practically sprinted over to greet me, until she got close and realized I was dripping like a soaked rat. "You went out for snacks? How did you get so completely drenched?" "The wind was crazy, destroyed my umbrella. Even the food blew away. No late night feast for you. Go take a hot bath immediately. You're gonna catch a horrible cold." Seeing the pure concern on her face, I just smiled. "The guest room bed is just bare wood. We didn't set it up. You wanna brave the couch tonight? Or just squeeze in with me? I'll take the couch." "I'm kidding. You take the bed. The couch is mine. Just wait for me to grab a quick shower." I didn't want to ruin the freshly mopped floors, so I just stripped off my soaked clothes right there in the living room. Hearing the fabric rustle, Bai Wei instinctively looked up. Catching sight of my tense muscles, her eyes went wide, and I could practically see her heart hammering against her ribs. She looked like her cheeks were burning hot, suddenly unable to even get a word out. "I'm jumping in the shower. I'll call you into the bedroom when I'm done." Completely missing her strange reaction, I grabbed my wet clothes and headed into the bathroom. She just nodded mechanically, waiting until the shower water started running. Through the crack in the door, I saw her collapse onto the couch like her bones had melted, pressing her cool hands against her burning cheeks. A little while later, I stepped out wrapped in a towel. I was about to tell her the bedroom was ready, but saw her curled up like a kitten clutching the blanket. She was fast asleep on the couch, breathing in soft, peaceful little rhythms. I walked over quietly, crouching down just to watch her sleep. Hearing the steady rhythm of her breath, the whole night still felt like some crazy, surreal dream. I reached out to brush a strand of hair from her face. A stray bead of water dripped from my arm, landing right on her slightly parted lips. She unconsciously licked it away, making me instantly pull my hand back. Thunder cracked outside. Bai Wei shifted in her sleep, kicking off half. I instinctively reached for the slipping blanket, but my fingers brushed her warm ankle instead. Her steady breathing instantly hitched. Her eyelashes fluttered wildly, and her skin grew warm. She was wide awake, keeping her eyes shut. I didn't say a word. Instead, I scooped her up, blanket and all, and carried her straight to the bedroom. The girl in my arms went completely rigid. I laid her down gently, swapped the blanket for my own quilt, and leaned in close to her ear. My warm breath made her instinctively pull back her neck. I just smiled, turned around, and walked out. The moment the door clicked shut, Bai Wei opened her eyes in the dark. Honestly, during those few short steps from the living room, her mind was already racing. She was terrified, fully expecting the worst, only to hear a simple, sweet goodnight. Her small hands gripped the edge of my quilt, pulling it right up to her nose. Breathing in the faint scent of my body wash, for the first time ever, she didn't curl up in fear. Instead, she stretched out, wrapped herself tight, and drifted into a deep sleep. By morning, the relentless storm had finally died down. A fully rested Bai Wei woke up early, slipping into her freshly dried clothes. Determined to pay her rent through chores, she quietly started helping me tidy up the bedroom. But as she tiptoed back out to the living room, she froze in her tracks. I was so exhausted last night that I had just passed out on the sofa, wearing nothing but a towel and a blanket. My back was turned to her. The problem? That towel had somehow slipped entirely off my waist and onto the floor. Bai Wei's face instantly burned bright red. Trying to distract herself, she rushed to the fridge and started whipping up some sandwiches and hot milk for breakfast. But she couldn't stop that embarrassing image from flashing through her mind. Right as she set the plates on the table, I finally stirred awake. Still half asleep, my hand instinctively reached out for the nightstand to grab my service weapon. My fingers only hit the cold glass of the coffee table. I shot up, bracing myself on my left arm. The old bullet wound from that cartel raid should have burned, but I felt zero pain. Rubbing my temples, I frowned and pulled up the blanket. The skin staring back at me did not match my memory. The nasty knife scars were totally gone, replaced by a flawless, younger body. My mind snapped to full focus. I had actually traveled back in time 10 years. I quickly whipped my head toward the open bedroom door. My heart skipped a beat. It wasn't until I spotted her busy silhouette in the kitchen that I collapsed back onto the couch, letting out a massive sigh of relief. Thank God, this wasn't a dream. She actually survived the storm. In my past life as a cop, I carried endless guilt and burnout. I never got to live like a normal young guy, but now, she's still alive, and I got my youth back. This time, I am doing things right. Gu Nansheng, time to get up. I've got breakfast ready, hope you like it. Bai Wei poked her head out from the kitchen, calling out softly. I sat up and took a deep breath. The sweet, tempting smell of toasted bread and warm milk filled the entire room. Coming, I yelled back, heading over to the table where she was sitting quietly, waiting for me. You don't have to wait up, just eat, I told her. It's okay, we have to wash the dishes together anyway, she replied. Try it. Tell me if I need to change anything for next time. I took a bite. Honestly, with skills like this, you could open a cafe down the street. You cook, I will run the register. I used to be pretty productive living on my own, but keep feeding me like this and I will turn into a lazy bum. Bai Wei held her face in her hands, her smile growing even brighter. I took another bite. The warm egg and melted cheese hit my tongue, and it was seriously incredible. I grabbed a napkin and casually wiped a spot of grease off the tip of her nose. Her ears instantly turned bright crimson. She was absolutely mortified, staring down to stir her warm milk. After we finished, I reached for the empty plates and accidentally brushed against her hand. It was soft, but freezing cold. She stubbornly pushed me away, insisting on doing all the chores herself. In minutes, she had the kitchen looking totally spotless. As soon as she walked out, she started scanning the room for more work. I gently grabbed her wrist and firmly pushed her down onto the sofa. You look completely wiped out, I told her. No more chores for the next 2 days. I'm the boss of this house, so you have to follow my orders and rest. Keep working, and I might just kick you out. My little bluff worked, and she obediently nodded. Get ready, we are going shopping later to buy you some new clothes. I can just go home and grab my things, she stammered. The moment she mentioned home, her face dropped, looking tense and afraid. No need, I said. We will buy new ones. If you are broke, put it on my tab. But you'll have to work off the debt as my housekeeper. Until you pay me back with interest, you are stuck right here. She easily caught the hidden meaning that I wanted her to stay. A wave of warmth hit her, and she finally cracked a soft, genuine smile and quietly agreed. Where do you normally shop for outfits? I asked. The thrift store around the corner from campus, she mumbled. $50 gets you a full set. But don't worry, I wash everything super thoroughly every time, boil it 3 times in soapy water, then sun-dry it. Her quiet voice sounded panicked, terrified I'd be disgusted by her. Suddenly, I remembered a spot with great clothes. I grabbed her hand. Caught off guard, Bai Wei stumbled. Her forehead gently bumped my shoulder blade. She didn't pull away, just let me lead her right up to a glass window around the corner. The tailor shop's wooden door was cracked open. A brass bell chimed, mingling with a lazy gramophone tune. She stared at the expensive fabrics on display. Nervous, she pinched my sleeve. This place looks pricey. The owner went to school with my mom, I told her. She caters to students, so it's cheap. Relax, let's head in. I pushed the door open. The shop smelled like freshly ironed cotton. Auntie Shui looked up. Her eyes locked onto our hands, smile lines crinkling. Wow, what a gorgeous girl Nancheng brought in. Shopping for your girlfriend? Bai Wei's ears turned bright tomato red. Feeling her tense up, I gently let go of her hand. Auntie Shui, help her pick out some seasonal clothes. We need underwear sets too. Pure, top-grade cotton. Auntie Shui smiled, pulling her behind the fitting curtain. Since it only covered her from the neck down, Bai Wei felt totally exposed to my gaze. Blushing hard, she shrank back into the racks. I backed up to the window, sat down, and mindlessly flipped through a catalog. Her fragile voice drifted through the fabric straight into my ears. I really don't need the lace one. Listen to me, sweetie. A woman should treat herself. It goes under your clothes whatever you actually like. Trust me, this set will totally drive that brat Nancheng crazy. You feel good. He loves looking at it. Win-win, right? Bai Wei clearly wanted to explain our relationship, but the words completely failed her. She just swallowed hard, blushing as she quietly agreed. Underwear sorted, Auntie Shui grabbed a few dresses and ducked behind the curtain. Hearing the soft rustle of fabric, a thin layer of sweat broke out on the back of my neck. I couldn't stop picturing exactly how she'd look. The curtain swished open. Does this look weird at all? Bai Wei gripped her skirt and did a little spin. The morning sun bathed her in a warm, honey-toned glow. Her cotton dress flared out in a gorgeous, delicate arc. My throat went totally dry. I swallowed hard. I shot up to fix her collar. You missed the second button. My fingertips accidentally brushed her bare neck. I yanked my hand back like I touched a live wire. Trying to play it cool, I grabbed a woven sun hat and plopped it right on her head. Looks like you two love it. Try this next. The fabric swished back again. In the morning light, the sheer linen hugged every single one of her curves. I honestly couldn't tear my eyes away. Auntie Shui knew her stuff. Outfit after outfit looked incredible on her. Seeing her get totally carried away, I quickly spoke up. Alright, Auntie Shu, hold on. You're going to max out my card. She laughed. Relax. Make your mom pay you back. Spending cash on her future daughter-in-law would make her the happiest woman alive. Honestly, I figured you two were already sharing a bed. I laughed nervously, practically begging her to stop. She winked, ringing us up with a massive friend's discount. At the register, she bagged the lingerie separately. She leaned in and whispered, "Your girlfriend's figure is flawless. I verified it for you." I choked on my own spit. Ears burning, I slid my credit card over. Out of my periphery, I caught Bai Wei peeking. She was staring at a lace nightgown by the window. Bathed in morning light, she looked so young, so full of life. Then, it hit me. That horrifying photo of her lifeless body in the pouring rain from my past life flashed through my mind. I clenched my fists tight. As long as I have breath in my lungs, I will protect this beautiful girl with my life. Clothes sorted, now we just needed bedding. I took the lead, carrying the shopping bags. Trailing slightly behind, Bai Wei kept stealing shy glances at the mint green lace peeking out. The delicate lace edge fluttered softly in the breeze. The home goods section was upstairs. Just grab whatever you like, I said. You're the one sleeping on it. Walking side by side, we looked exactly like a young couple on a date. Carrying that sweet, nervous energy, we strolled into the bedding store. Under the warm yellow lights, everything looked incredibly cozy. Pushing the cart beside her, I watched her lean over to inspect the sheets. Honestly, it felt just like we were newlyweds setting up our first home. Is this way too expensive? She asked. Who cares? I replied. If you like it, just feel it. I grabbed a heavy silk blanket and tossed it into her arms. She smiled but stayed quiet. While I crouched down to check the tags, she quietly put the expensive silk duvet back. Instead, she hugged a cheap, mint green washed cotton blanket. This one feels really nice, she murmured. Nice, how? The texture is terrible. It hit me instantly. The high price tag completely scared her off. I stood up and gently tapped her forehead. Listen, quality bedding means better sleep. Plus, once you leave the guest room, we can wash it and save it for company. It's fine to spend extra. Using the word we and hinting about the bedroom carried a heavy double meaning. Catching the drift, she completely froze. Come feel the support of this mattress. Before he could even react, I pulled him right into the fluffy silk duvet, slipping a memory foam pillow behind his head. My palm gently supported the curve of his lower back through his shirt. Everything felt so incredibly soft right then. Her cheeks were slightly flushed. The air around us smelled like sweet honey. Staring at the pale quilt in our cart, she whispered a thank you. I stopped abruptly. She bumped right into my back. I told her to drop the thank yous. Actions speak louder than words. Until her debt is paid, she is stuck with me. She stood there, completely stunned. But she gave a soft, obedient nod. We paid, set up the delivery, and I carried her new clothes as we walked home. The sweet scent of osmanthus wine drifted from the street corner. I bought a piping hot rice cake, blew on it, and held it to her lips. She took a bite. Sweet petals clung to her mouth, so I gently wiped them away. Is it good? Yeah, so sweet. I promised to take her to the food street next time. She stared at my back, totally mesmerized. I had no idea she still remembered that silly little promise we made in the park as kids. We picked up some toiletries. By the time we got back, the bedding had arrived. I was kneeling on the floor, wrestling with the duvet cover. Bai Wei hugged her new pillow. Let me do that. I am honestly terrified you might trap yourself inside. I shook out the fresh bedsheet and playfully draped it right over her head. This entire bed, this whole room, is yours now, at least until you get sick of it here. Those simple words struck a deep chord inside her. She turned away quickly. I caught a heavy shift in the air and saw her shoulders shaking. She was crying, probably her very first time feeling what a real home was like. I tried to lighten the mood with a joke. Hey, hold your tears. I am still charging you rent. You better think this through. Bai Wei wiped her eyes and turned around. Her eyes were red, but the brightest, most beautiful smile bloomed across her face. After getting her fully settled, I collapsed onto the couch to catch my breath. Then, out of nowhere, the doorbell shrieked. Bai Wei flinched, stepping back in pure fear. The nightmare of my past life had my nerves stretched raw. I couldn't risk a single mistake. What if the killer was standing right outside my door? I bolted up from the couch, pulling her securely behind me. Noticing my frantic need to protect her, Bai Wei looked surprised, but a sweet warmth filled her eyes. I crept up to the peephole like a soldier, only to see Jiang Yan standing there, my absolute prime suspect in this murder mystery. In my previous life, he never showed up here today. The timeline shifted. This unannounced visit set off every alarm bell in my head. Heart pounding, I ripped the door open. Jiang Yan, what are you doing here? Do I need a reason? The storm was brutal last night. You got completely drenched, and I was worried you would get sick. I actually had my mom teach me how to make ginger soup for you. Staring at the thermos in his hands, it finally clicked. Running out in the rain to check on him last night had moved him. I had triggered a massive butterfly effect. Facing this guy who seemed to genuinely care about our friendship, I was completely at a loss. My head was spinning. You should drink this while it is hot. Jiang Yan stepped inside, but then he froze. He spotted Bai Wei standing nervously right behind me. He blinked, his gaze snapping back and forth between the two of us. Bai Wei, you know each other? Oh, I get it. Hi, sister-in-law. Guess my timing is terrible today. This soup is super healthy. Your girl should drink some too. Anyway, I need to hit the hospital to watch over my mom. I will stop being a third wheel. Jiang Yan bolted down the hall, watching his goofy, upbeat exit. My stomach tied itself into a knot of absolute confusion. I couldn't wrap my head around it. How could a guy this fiercely loyal be our cold-blooded killer? Part of me was desperate to find a new prime suspect just to clear his name. Bai Wei stared at the empty doorway. Everyone at school says he is a terrifying bully, but he doesn't seem like a bad guy at all. Never judge a book by its cover. The guy has a complicated history. Most things are a lot darker than they appear on the surface. I popped the lid off the thermos. The rich, spicy scent of ginger filled the room. I poured 2 bowls and handed her one. You caught the storm last night too. You look pale. Drink up, it helps. The sweet broth slid down my throat, sending a rush of heat through my body. People always trash talk him, but he is actually really sweet. Life backed him into a corner. Honestly, he never wanted to turn out this way. At the mention of life backing someone into a corner, Bai Wei's eyes lost their light. Those simple words dug right into her own hidden trauma. I only knew scattered pieces about her family history. Back when I worked her murder case in my past life, I tracked down her parents, but got absolutely nowhere. They divorced and started new families. She lived with her mom. That proved why she showed up drenched at my door with nowhere else to go. Her toxic family was the root of all this. Neighbors told me she ran into the storm after a violent fight with her stepdad. Rumor was, she even stabbed him. But when I interviewed her parents, they shut it down immediately. Flat out denied it. They claimed he slipped and fell onto a knife her mom was using to peel apples. An absolute lie. They said the fight started over a photo of a boy on her phone. After Bai Wei vanished into the rain that night, her so-called family barely flinched. They went straight to the hospital. Cameras proved their alibi, clearing them as suspects. But when we delivered the news of Bai Wei's murder, the stepdad showed zero emotion. Her mother collapsed, and eventually lost her mind entirely. But the most gut-wrenching part was the timeline. After fleeing her mother's, Bai Wei went to her biological father's house, but she left almost instantly. Security footage showed her head hanging heavy, looking completely broken. In the middle of a screaming storm, both of her own parents had locked her out. That was when she finally found my door. I can't even fathom the pure, suffocating despair she felt standing on my porch. Whenever I think about it, the guilt practically drowns me. But the universe gave me a second chance. And this time around, I swear, I will never let her go. I walked over with hot milk. She was curled up on the couch, lost in a book. The warm lamplight traced her fragile shoulders. I caught her subconsciously rubbing her left wrist, tracing a faded, crescent-shaped scar. Here, drink up. I added some honey. I pressed the warm glass into her hands. She almost said thank you, remembered my new rule, and bit her lip instead. Through the sweet steam, I realized she was staring directly at me. What is it? Want to learn fortune telling? Yeah. Once I figure it out, I will read your future. She offered a playful grin. Suddenly, the brutal screech of car tires ripped through the night outside. Bai Wei completely froze. The glass nearly slipped from her grip. I snatched her shaking hand. I quickly checked the window. Nothing was out there. I sat close and gently squeezed her fingers. Hey, relax. You still owe me, remember? Until then, nobody is taking you away from me. Still trembling, Bai Wei's heart hammered against her chest. When I learned fortune telling, I am checking our compatibility. I really don't want you jinxing me. You are a terrible creditor. Her cheeks flushed a deep, embarrassed red. She had already secretly checked our horoscopes, and we were shockingly compatible. So, what college major are you picking? I have some vague ideas, but nothing set in stone. You? Oh, I am keeping it simple. Whatever you pick, I pick. You owe me way too much money. If you run off, I am completely bankrupt. Bai Wei traced little circles with her spoon, staring at my warm smile, a bittersweet ache caught in her throat. I want to study psychology at Jin University, or Kyoto Medical. Those schools are tough to get into. Why psychology? Suddenly, the horrifying image of her insane mother flashed across my mind. Did mental illness run deep in her family? Bai Wei opened her mouth to speak, but shut it. It is a solid choice. Builds character and mental toughness. I will work as hard as I can. All right then, I am going to be your new tutor. She stared at me like I was insane. My grades were totally average, while she was top tier. What? Don't believe me? Not at all. You are lying. Whenever you lie, you avoid eye contact and stutter. I know your tells. Hearing those words from my mouth proved I had been quietly watching her all this time. The sweetness bubbling in her chest beat the warm milk. To prove my skills, I grabbed a massive prep book and blasted through 5 pages of complex math. Perfect accuracy. Back in my past life, I studied like a madman to pass the police academy entrance exam and hunt down her killer. Every formula was tattooed on my brain. Witnessing my hidden genius, Bai Wei looked at me in pure awe. Then wouldn't I owe you a crazy tutoring fee now too? What if I literally can't pay you back? I guess you will just have to sign your life away. I slid a pen and paper across the table. It was obviously a joke. Surprisingly, she picked up the pen and leaned in. She actually started writing. I peeked over, completely curious. She had scribbled contract of indentured servitude at the top, and signed her name, Bai Wei, at the bottom. The entire middle section was totally blank. She smiled and pushed it over. The terms are entirely up to you. My favorite creditor. Wait, doesn't that mean I can ask for absolutely anything? So what exactly do you want from me, my lord creditor? She smirked, mischievously. I leaned right beside her ear. Her warm breath brushed past my ear, sending a sudden tickle down my neck. Forget the service, I whispered back. But I do have one order. Hearing this, Bai Wei swallowed hard. By 10 p.m., you must be asleep in bed. And don't you dare wake up before 7 a.m. tomorrow. I am making breakfast. She blinked at me in total surprise. Then her eyes softened, and she beamed. Yes, sir, Mr. Creditor. That night, following my strict orders, Bai Wei actually went straight to bed. I brought her a glass of warm milk. You can lock the door, I offered, stepping out. She stared at the handle, but left it unlocked. Back in my room, I let out a heavy sigh. Back then, I worked cases like a madman to numb the crushing guilt. I even turned down the easy desk job my mentor offered. I was terrified of stopping, terrified of remembering her. Now, sent 10 years into the past, she was safe. I was finally free. After some deep mental calming, I fell into a heavy sleep. In my dreams, I was a kid again. Sitting in the corner of the local park, a little porcelain doll of a girl was sobbing uncontrollably. Why are you still crying like a baby? I asked. She sniffled. I am not crying. Did someone bully you? I will make them apologize. The little girl quickly grabbed my arm, shaking her head. It wasn't anyone else's fault. I pulled out the clean handkerchief my mom had packed, gently wiping away her tears. Why are you staring at me like that? What are you doing? I made a goofy face into a nearby puddle, and the little girl burst into giggles. I am Gu Nancheng, I announced proudly. I play here all the time. If you ever feel sad, you can always come find me. Right then, my mom called out, and I ran off. Ring! The alarm clock exploded. My eyes snapped open. Why was I dreaming about my childhood? At that exact same moment, Bai Wei was trapped in the very same dream about the park. Mom, Dad, one of them is leaving me. Stop crying, the little boy said. I thought it was something bad. Both my parents left me, and you don't see me crying. Little Bai Wei stared at him, completely shocked. She never expected this little boy to be so brave. She pulled him into a tight hug, trying to comfort him instead. Your parents left? What will you do? I live with my grandparents, I replied. The adults say they will come back soon, but I heard they get a new family when they leave. They won't want me anymore. I am so scared. The little boy wiped her tears again, gently taking her hand. Then you can just come to my house. My place is pretty big. My parents said they wanted a daughter anyway. We can be a family. Those innocent childhood words made little Bai Wei burst into tears again. So, in this big world, there was still a safe place for her. But after that day, she never came back. She just left a thankful note tucked under the spot we used to meet. The dream faded with Bai Wei watching the boy walk away. She woke up with her pillow soaked in tears. I knocked on the guest bedroom door to wake her up. I had specially cooked a warm, healthy red bean porridge for her. Watching her blow on the hot bowl like a timid little kitten, I completely zoned out staring at her. Why are you looking at me like that? You just remind me of someone. A little girl I met when I was really young. We played for barely 2 weeks before she moved away. You look exactly like her. She paused. Did she ever say goodbye to you? Her question threw me right back into the past. Not in person, I murmured. I only found out she left because of a torn piece of paper. The heavy rain had completely ruined it. I only had half the note. Looking at Bai Wei now, the resemblance to that little girl was uncanny. I asked if she remembered meeting a boy in the park back then. She just gave me a mischievous smile and told me to guess. Her mood had instantly brightened up. She finally realized why her name hadn't sparked my memory earlier. That ruined note took her name with it. Knowing I actually remembered her all this time, she playfully refused to give me a straight answer. I guess you are not her then, I teased, because you are way prettier than she was. I grinned in triumph as her face flushed bright pink. After breakfast, I decided to take her out to buy a new smartphone. After all, I couldn't keep her tied to my side, 24/7. Meanwhile, I was figuring out how to ask my mom for cash. Between the clothes and the premium bedding last night, my credit card was totally maxed out. I texted her asking for $5,000. To my absolute shock, she instantly wired over $50,000 instead. Staring at the screen, I read her message. Tell me if you need more. Treat this girl right. I laughed awkwardly. My friend must have already told her I took a girl shopping for lingerie. But with this massive pile of money, my worries completely vanished. Since we are free today, is there anywhere you want to go? I asked. I want to visit the old district park, she replied softly. The old district park? That was exactly where I met that little girl. Adding up her earlier hints, and her parents getting divorced, plus her nervous habit of looking away and pausing when she lied. Every single detail clicked together perfectly right then. My heart hammered wildly against my ribs. In my previous life, when she tragically died, my entire world faded to pitch black. I never had the energy to look back at my childhood. But now I knew. She was that little girl. That park is perfect for flying kites, I smiled. Let's grab one, then hit up the food stalls later. Yes, I have never actually flown a kite before. Seeing her light up like a kid over something so simple broke my heart. A completely normal day was a rare luxury for her. I silently promised myself right then and there. Whatever colors she missed out on in life, I would bring them all back for her. First stop, a new phone, I said. Without one, how is your favorite creditor supposed to track you down? She saw right through my terrible excuse, but she smiled and nodded anyway. I pushed open the glass doors. The clerk eagerly pulled off the display cover, highly recommending a pink phone perfect for young couples. Hearing that phrase, Bai Wei shyly grabbed the hem of her green skirt. I just pointed straight at the sunset pink model. It cost $4,888. She stared blankly at the expensive price tag. I quickly reached over and blocked her view. Don't look at that. The creditor calls the shots. The clerk handed us the display model to test the camera. The viewfinder caught my side profile, and Bai Wei panicked, nervously hitting the shutter button. The picture only captured half my shoulder. Selfies look way better from this distance, I whispered. I leaned in, gently wrapping my hand around hers. My warmth soaked right into her skin. With my cheek almost brushing her hair, I clicked the button. The screen flashed. In the shot, she was looking up slightly, my face pressed right against her hair. The window behind us reflected our bodies leaning perfectly together. We looked exactly like a couple sneaking a cute picture. After buying the device, the clerk offered a free custom engraving for us. Just engrave this, I told them. GNCMM. Bai Wei stared at the letters, completely lost. The first 3 stood for my name, Gunan Cheng. But what on earth did the last 2 mean? Even as we walked out the store, she was still distracted. She almost tripped straight over the doorway. I shot my arm out, catching her safely against my chest. The sweet scent of her hair instantly filled my senses. Watch where you are going, silly, I teased. Come on, tell me, she whined. Otherwise, I'm going to drive myself crazy thinking about it. She tugged at my sleeve, actually pouting for once. All right, you win, I laughed. I am your creditor, right? The double M stands for my master. But I guess it could mean something else, too. It suddenly clicked for her. But then, another translation seemed to pop into her head. Her pulse clearly jumped, and her cheeks flushed absolute crimson again. Watching her turn so incredibly shy, I was dying of laughter on the inside. Those 2 letters, she had definitely figured out it meant my man. But I didn't say a word. That quiet mix of shy doubt and hopeful girlish romance made her look so breathtaking right then. The local bus rattled along towards the old district, the very place our childhoods had originally crossed paths. I pulled out one earbud, gently sliding it right into her ear. Ever heard this track? I asked. It is called Don't Cry, My Beloved. It is one of my absolute favorites. In that brief second, a massive wave of memories flooded back from my previous life. I had spent countless dark nights playing this exact song, mourning her tragic death. That one lyric, "Tonight I bloom like a fleeting flower, fading at my most beautiful," felt like a cruel prophecy of her fate. Through the speakers, the hauntingly sad vocals echoed softly. As Bai Wei listened, silent tears began streaming down her face. I had no idea that in her past life, she had stood on that rooftop countless times, ready to jump. The memory of that little boy was the only thing keeping her alive. Her tears right now were a final goodbye to the broken girl she used to be. I was lost in my own heavy grief when a soft hand gently brushed my cheek. Her eyes were filled with such deep, aching sorrow for me. Just like back then, she suddenly leaned in, pulling me into a tight embrace. The warmth radiating from her small frame perfectly mirrored the little girl who comforted me in the park. I did not pull away, I just let time freeze. Golden sunlight spilled through the bus window, melting away the heavy shadows that had completely buried our wounded hearts. Stepping off the bus, the breeze carried the fresh scent of camphor leaves. The buzzing food stalls, the ringing bicycle bells, nothing had changed at all. We walked toward an alley lined with colorful kites. Bai Wei trailed closely behind me, looking around like a curious little kid. We stopped right in front of a street vendor. Her eyes instantly locked onto a bright peach-pink butterfly. "Hey kids, want one each?" The vendor grinned. "This blue one makes a perfect set." I smirked to myself. If we flew too, how would I ever get to hold her hand? The owner stared at me, totally caught off guard by my joke. Bai Wei covered her mouth, giggling softly, all her nervous tension melting away. The spring breeze felt amazing. I ran ahead with the kite, showing her exactly how to catch the wind. "Run faster," I called out. With my coaching, the pink butterfly finally soared into the sky. She stared up at the clouds, a brand new spark of joy shining in her eyes. "Wanna try?" I asked, passing her the string. A sudden gust of wind yanked the spool. She stumbled back. Seizing the moment, I stepped up right behind her, catching her waist. I wrapped my warm hands right over hers, lightly brushing her fingertips. The sweet scent of jasmine floated from her hair. "Gu Nancheng," she whispered. "I remember you used to say the clouds looked like cotton candy. You always wanted to taste them. Now I finally found, more like you. Your smile is just like cotton candy, soft and sweet." Right in the middle of our moment, I spotted a familiar silhouette squatting nearby. "Jiang Yan, what are you doing here?" He completely froze. "Oh, old Gu, nothing," he stammered, claiming he was waiting for a friend. Following his gaze, I saw him staring at a girl with a ponytail, helping her dad's BBQ stall. Seeing her, Jiang Yan's tragic past life suddenly hit me. In my previous life, Jiang Yan fell hard for this girl. To erase her father's prejudice against his school bully reputation, he tried everything. He cut his hair, painfully removed his tattoos, and ditched his bad crowd. He even quit smoking and dressed clean. But no matter what changed, her dad still saw a thug trying to con his daughter. Heartbroken for Jiang Yan, the girl ran away from home and moved into his place. His mother was happy but kept urging her to go talk to her dad. Instead of understanding, the father showed up with the cops. Right in front of the neighbors, he screamed that Jiang Yan ruined his daughter. He threatened to press assault charges. Jiang Yan's mother, already suffering from severe uremia, couldn't handle the shock. She collapsed and died right there. The girl's dad was dumbfounded. He only wanted to scare the kid. He never meant to cause a death. A beautiful romance instantly turned into a blood feud. His mother was his absolute rock. The sheer grief and rage nearly made him kill the man. Even though the father later relented, how could Jiang Yan stay with the daughter of the man who killed his mom? They split up. Soon after, he dropped out and left the city. Years later, during a case, I ran into him. He was covered in rags, a homeless man sleeping under a bridge. He was insane, repeating just one sentence. He had to avenge his mother. The extreme agony completely burned away his sanity. He forgot how to get revenge, trapped in madness forever. Remembering his blank, foolish stare broke my heart just as much as Bai Wei's tragedy did. So, even though the evidence pointed at him before, I knew he wasn't a monster. Since fate gave me a second chance, I refused to watch history repeat itself. I planned to give him that $100,000 fugitive clue. With an official police commendation, her dad's prejudice would easily be cut in half. "What is it, old Gu? I'll tell you tomorrow at school." Jiang Yan scratched his head, looking totally confused. Just then, a guy holding a little boy's hand walked past. The second he saw me, he froze solid. "What a coincidence, walking your brother." Yi Si stood there, expressionless. He nodded, almost unsure how to even look at me. "Hi, Brother Gu." His little brother, Yeshi, was super sweet. Since I helped his older brother, he liked me. "Hey there, Xiaoxi, good boy." I smiled and patted the kid's head. But Bai Wei instantly noticed that Yechi was glaring at me weirdly. The moment I touched the little boy, Yechi's eyes shifted. A weird, uncontrollable obsession flashed in his stare. He was insanely jealous that his brother got close to me, wishing it was him instead. Bai Wei was genuinely spooked by that creepy look. She couldn't tell if it was pure malice or just a deeply unsettling affection. Feeling her gaze, Yechi snapped his head around and glared at her. Terrified, Bai Wei stepped back, hiding behind me and gripping my sleeve. I looked up at Yechi. He instantly dropped the intense aura, turning right back into that lifeless, gloomy shell. Honestly, I never know what goes on in his head. You guys keep walking. I'm full. I'm heading out. Yechi awkwardly nodded, leaning forward slightly. Bai Wei, are you really full? We have school tomorrow, so sleep early. I'm not making you any late-night snacks. Hearing that, Yechi reacted strangely. He opened his mouth to ask something but shut it again. I'm full, let's go. Bai Wei still seemed deeply shaken. She grabbed my arm and dragged me out of the food street. Looking back, I saw his little brother tugging his sleeve. Brother? Only then did Yi Shi look away from the street, showing a rare, gentle smile to his family. Back home, Bai Wei was so full she sat rubbing her stomach. I sat beside her, placing both her small hands over her belly. I guided her hands, teaching her to rub in slow, clockwise circles. Seeing how serious and patient I was, she blushed. This cozy vibe felt safer to her than her own parents' house. I went to the kitchen and mixed her a honey mint lemon drink. But sitting on the couch, Bai Wei suddenly felt a wave of crushing anxiety. Years of family trauma made her terrified that this dreamlike moment was just a fragile bubble. She dreaded waking up tomorrow to face it all again. To face that freezing, broken home. I noticed she looked off. I walked over and gently pressed my forehead against hers to check her temperature. Once I knew she wasn't sick, I sat down next to her with the warm drink. I scooped up the warm tea with a porcelain spoon and pressed it to her lips. She was shy and wanted to hold it, but I insisted on feeding her myself. With every spoonful, the sweet and sour warmth slid down. The liquid warmed her stomach. Watching my completely patient, gentle movements, tears welled up in Bai Wei's eyes. All that heavy, deep-rooted trauma was slowly melting away under this massive wave of safety. That night, she finally let go. She slept so peacefully. In her dreams, she saw her late grandparents. Crying happy tears, she told them she had finally met a really, really good guy. At the end of the dream, holding my hand, she waved goodbye to them in the sky. As her deep psychological wounds slowly healed, her whole mindset started shifting. She finally found that long-lost peace of mind. The next morning, Bai Wei woke up super early to make us breakfast. I watched her hustle around the kitchen. I realized she was like a completely different person. Her mood was so much brighter and optimistic. After eating, we threw on our school uniforms and headed out. Hey Bai Wei, let's find time to pack your things and move them over. Hearing the word home made her visibly flinch. She tensed up instantly, having no clue how to face those two broken families. I grabbed her freezing left hand tight, passing my warmth over to her. Relax. You don't need to worry about them. If anyone objects, I have a way to stop them. She squeezed my hand back. Gu Nancheng, I really don't want to go back there. Her eyes were full of pure trust and absolute desperation. Trust me, I won't let you. You owe me a debt now. No running away until you pay it off. Bai Wei smiled and nodded. After seeing real light, she finally had the guts to escape that darkness. The next day, we walked to school together. The classroom was loud with morning reading. The second we sat down, my desk mate Su Jin leaned in, sniffing for gossip. Hey, heard you two hit the night market together looking all sweet. That true? Bai Wei's face flushed bright red. I reached out and pinched Su Jin's sunlit cheek. Who told you that? Spill it. He whined. Ow, ow. It was Yi Shi's little brother, Yi Shi. He said you were on a date with a pretty girl. I sighed and let go. A few guys nearby heard the gossip and started cheering. I shot them a deadpan look, and they quickly quieted down to read. Right then, a well-dressed, middle-aged woman suddenly showed up at the classroom door. One glance, and I knew it was Bai Wei's biological mother. The moment she appeared, Bai Wei went rigid, instinctively turning to me for help. The homeroom teacher walked over, talked to the woman briefly, then turned back to face the class. Bai Wei, your mother is here. After I gave her a reassuring nod, she took a deep breath and walked to the door. The second she stepped out, her mom put on a fake, apologetic face and whispered something to Mr. He. He tactfully stepped back inside. I stayed in my seat, watching through the window. Standing just outside, Bai Wei kept her eyes glued to the floor. She pressed her lips together, letting her mother ramble on. After a while, her mom flared up. She snapped something harsh and just spun around and left. The bit of life Bai Wei had gained from my promise this morning? Gone. By the time she sat down, her mood had completely crashed. She glanced up at me, clearly anxious. I didn't ask questions. I just gave her a steady, knowing smile. Seeing that, her stiff shoulders finally dropped a little, and her expression smoothed out. Bai Wei, what did your mom want? Nothing much. Just talking about just some family stuff. I cut in. Adult stuff. Kids shouldn't snoop. After reading period, I'm taking you to the snack shop to load up. Now read your book. I lightly smacked Su Jin's gossiping head with my textbook. That smoothly bailed Bai Wei out. But in my head, I was already plotting my next move. Since the shadow of her toxic family wouldn't let go, I needed more leverage to stay by her side. As morning reading wrapped up, I walked straight up to the podium and whispered a request to Mr. He. At your age, studies should be the priority. Teacher, how about a bet? If I can ace the final exams this week and make it into the top 10, will you let me switch seats to sit next to her? Hearing those words, Mr. He's calm eyes instantly lit up. He wasn't totally rigid. If I could turn teenage romance into fuel for studying, he was interested. To him, that was actually a huge bonus. I like your courage. Deal. Make the top 10, and I agree. I smiled and pinky swore with him. Back at my desk, I opened my English book and kicked off an absolutely insane study session. The blonde kid next to me stared like I was a monster, joking that I must be on something. I ignored him. I knew this was a game I absolutely had to win. Once reading ended, I kept my word. grabbing Bai Wei and Sujin. At the store, Sujin grabbed $10 worth of snacks to avenge my morning cheek pinch. Bai Wei still looked down, so I handed her a lollipop. Sugar helps. It'll cheer you up. Just remember what I said this morning. I'll handle everything after school. Gripping the lollipop, Bai Wei took a deep breath. Finally, she gave me a genuine, bright smile. Stepping outside, I spotted Jiang Yan lounging on the planter. He was staring blindly at a ponytail girl grilling food nearby. He was so mesmerized he didn't even notice us walk up. Man, keep staring like that, and they'll peg you for a stalker. Jiang Yan jolted. Seeing us, he nervously stuttered out a greeting, making Bai Wei blush hard. I sent the girls back to class and sat beside him. Since I caught you, here's a tip. Chasing a girl takes heart. But honestly, I'm not worried about Ku Dangwan rejecting you. I'm worried about her incredibly traditional father. He'll hate your whole school bully vibe. Jiang Yan's face instantly fell. In my past life, that stubborn prejudice gave his mother a fatal heart attack and drove him completely mad. I couldn't let history repeat itself. I know how to change his mind. I have a tip on a fugitive with a $100,000 bounty. Report it. When they bust him, you get the glory, police backing, and a school award. If her dad judges your clothes, tell him you went undercover with thugs to help solve the case. He'll be totally impressed. Jiang Yan gasped. Damn, Gu, that is a genius move. Let's split the 100 grand. You take 50,000. It'll ease the pressure of your mom's medical bills, giving you way more time to chase the girl. The intel is rock solid. You in? Brothers for life, man. Say no more. Right after I locked in the plan with Jiang Yan, I saw Ku Dangwan gathering her courage and walking our way. I quietly slipped around the corner to watch. Facing her, the 6-foot giant turned into a nervous schoolboy, stuttering over every word. Turns out, she once called the cops to help him out. She thought the rumored bad boy was some monster, not a shy, stuttering mess. Watching him trail after her like a puppy, I finally felt at peace. But when I turned around, standing quietly nearby was Yezi. I am so sorry about last Friday night, she said. Are you okay? I'm fine, she replied. Here, I sent your jacket to the dry cleaners. I'll return it later. I took the freshly washed handkerchief, patted her shoulder, and told her to reach out anytime. Back in the classroom, I swiped the chocolate Sujin had stashed in her desk. Ignoring her loud protests, I handed the last piece to Bai Wei. She gently snapped it in half and shared it with Sujin. The room buzzed with lively energy. Settling into my seat, I checked my phone. My mom had faxed over the nanny employment contract. The terms were crystal clear. $6,000 a month, free room and board, perfectly safe working conditions. Reading it over, I breathed a massive sigh of relief. This wasn't just some job offer. This was a custom legal shield built just for Bai Wei. Once she signed, proving she was 18 with an independent income, her parents could never control or abuse her again. Since her family refused to give her warmth, I would use the law to pull her right out of that dark swamp. Contract verified, I forwarded the fugitive intel to Jiang Yan. Staring out at the bright sunlight, I knew my new life with Bai Wei was finally about to begin. After school, near the gate, Bai Wei suddenly froze. She stepped back, instinctively hiding behind me. I followed her terrified gaze. Standing right there was her biological father, Bai Chengfeng. He was probably looking for her since she hadn't been home in 2 days. Her mom failed to grab her this morning, so she sent him. I've got you, I whispered. Talk if you want. Otherwise, I'll handle him. You have nothing to worry about. Her pale face looked like crumpled paper in the breeze. Taking 2 deep breaths, she slowly relaxed her tense shoulders and kept walking with me. We completely ignored him, heading straight out the gate. We barely made it a few steps before heavy footsteps chased us down. Bai Wei, wait, your mom says you haven't been home for days. What is going on? He fired the question at her, but his eyes silently sized me up. Bai Wei pressed her lips together, trembling, totally unable to speak. I didn't hesitate. Right in front of him, I firmly grabbed her freezing hand. The move left him absolutely stunned. Bai Wei also stared at me in shock, terrified her father might lash out at me. What's going on? You should know exactly what's going on. Massive storm on Friday, and she didn't even have a home to shelter in. You tell me. Who the hell are you? I'm her classmate. Let go of her. Stay away from our Bai Wei. You people watched a terrible storm roll in, and you'd rather see your own daughter soak in the freezing rain than take her in for one single night. Don't call that place her home. I wasn't going to show this selfish hypocrite an ounce of mercy. You little bastard. Who do you think you are, lecturing me? This is family business. Keep your mouth shut and let go, or I'm calling your parents and teachers. Go ahead, I scoffed. I'll call my parents right now. I'm sure they'd love to chew you out too. I honestly don't mind. You're harassing a schoolgirl. Let go, or I'm calling the police. Filing a false report gets you locked up, I fired back. The cops aren't your personal bodyguards. I strongly suggest you calm down. Out of arguments, he lunged forward, trying to forcefully drag Bai Wei away. My eyes went cold. I swiftly locked onto his wrist. With police combat training from my past life, my grip easily overpowered any normal teenager. He let out a painful groan. I'm only going to say 3 things. Listen closely. First, Bai Wei's mother has full custody. You have absolutely no right to control or even touch her. Back off. Second, when she needed protection the most, You watched her get forced out into a brutal storm. What gives you the right to stand here acting like you care? Third, she's an adult now. She makes her own living. She doesn't need your pathetic charity. Now, we're going to grab lunch. We're done. I forcefully shoved his arm away. Bother her again, and I'll hang a massive banner outside your office. Let your bosses hear exactly how you locked your own daughter out in a freezing storm. Wonder how that'll look for your next big promotion. I knew exactly how to strike a selfish man's weak spot. Bai Chengfeng froze in place, totally speechless. On the walk home, Bai Wei kept glancing up at me. To her, I felt familiar yet strange, radiating a maturity far beyond high school. Sorry, Bai Wei. I lost my temper back there. I laid into your dad without even thinking about how you'd feel. I felt a flash of sudden regret. That was her real father. My aggressive outburst might have totally trapped her in the middle. I'm happy, really happy, she whispered. She gently squeezed my palm, her fingertips tracing the back of my hand. She lowered her eyes. The way you shielded me, defending me, without a second thought. Even though we're just teenagers, you stood right up to him. I am so grateful. She finally looked up. I suddenly realized her face was completely soaked with tears. Pulling out my handkerchief, I gently wiped her reddened eyes. If you're happy, why the waterworks? She didn't say a word. She just gave me the most radiant smile. Those tears held complete relief from the past, and pure joy for the future. Silly girl. 1 second, you're crying, and laughing the next. But crying is good. Smiling right after is even healthier. Hearing my soft words, Bai Wei felt a massive, heavy weight in her chest finally melt completely away. Back at the house, I scooped out 2 huge bowls of taro and pork rib rice. That's way too much for me. I'm the boss, and the boss says you're starving. Eat up. Even if you hit 200 pounds, you'll always have a place here. And if you do gain weight, I'll just be your personal drill sergeant and help you work it off. Don't starve yourself. A little extra weight is cute anyway. Just look at Su Jin. Her cheeks are great to pinch. So if I get chubby, are you gonna pinch my cheeks and bully me every day too? I'd never. Besides, you're officially my employee now. Bullying you would be workplace harassment. If you sued me, I'd go broke. We don't even have a contract. She laughed. How could I possibly sue you? Who says we don't? I put down my bowl, walked over to the fax machine, and slid the fresh paperwork right in front of her. Your official contract is locked and loaded. Eat up, then sign right here. Bai Wei. Looking at the contract, she was a bit surprised. You told your mom? She had to sign it to make it legally binding. Did she say anything else? She did. She said if you don't take good care of me, I should fire you. Especially this clause right here, taking care of daily needs. Like warming up the bed if it's too cold at night. That's totally an unfair clause. Special services like that cost extra. Seeing her no longer acting so shy and anxious, and even learning to joke around with me, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. This contract of freedom finally placed her safely under my protection. The dining room felt incredibly warm. Bai Weifan stared at the papers, realizing my supposed joke was actually a fully detailed, completely formal agreement. So formal, it's intimidating. You aren't actually planning to pay me this much, are you? It's signed in black and white. It's legally binding. If I don't pay up, you could sue me and I'd face massive penalty fees. No way. Let's just scrap this whole contract. Seeing her get totally flustered, I just sat there slowly sipping my milk. I already had my entire plan mapped out in my head. This contract isn't just us playing house. Its real purpose is to handle any future trouble from your parents. The moment she heard the word parents, I noticed her shoulders tense up and tremble ever so slightly. Her eyes filled with sheer confusion. Parents? What do they have to do with this? You just turned 18, but without a steady income, you are still under their absolute control. However, under civil law, Article 18 states that with a steady income to support yourself, you're considered a fully independent adult. I quickly unlocked my phone, pulled up the exact legal statute, and slid it over to her. Simply put, as long as you hold this job, you can legally refuse your parents' demands. If they try to force you, the law protects you. Is that really true? Outsiders could never imagine the kind of invisible domestic abuse that had driven this girl to the brink of despair. Watching her read the law, I finally saw the dark clouds in her eyes vanish, replaced by a brilliant spark of hope. See the perks now? Just be a good girl and sign it after we finish eating. But $6,000 a month is way too much. My mom only makes $3,000. I don't even know how to be a proper housekeeper. How about we cut the salary in half? Silly girl, you're living in my house. Won't I just deduct this money back for your living expenses anyway? That high number is strictly for show. At the end of the day, it all goes right back into my pocket. Oh, then I feel much better. She instantly relaxed, happily shoveling pork rib rice into her mouth like it was a total feast. I couldn't resist teasing her again. I'm kidding. You get every single penny. Not a penny less. If you think it's too much, you can pay all our household bills with your salary. Let me experience the thrill of being a kept man. Deal. I, Bai Weifan, promise to use my future paychecks to sponsor Gu Nanchang's food and drinks for life. We should record this as proof. After dinner, she happily signed the contract. Humming a cheerful tune, she practically shoved me out of the kitchen to wash the dishes herself. Back in the quiet living room, I suddenly remembered the soothing herbs I brought back from my grandparents last night. They told me keeping it under your pillow guarantees a deep sleep. I was so busy yesterday, I completely forgot. I walked right into the guest room. Her bed was made, meticulously, without a single wrinkle. A faint, fresh scent filled the air. I walked straight over and casually lifted her pillow, but my eyes instantly locked onto something. A cold fruit knife lay perfectly still underneath. My pupils shrank in pure horror. This knife was an exact match for the murder weapon the forensic team described in my past life, the very blade that killed her. This definitely wasn't from my kitchen. She must have been clutching it ever since I found her stranded in the pouring rain. Countless memories from my past life exploded in my head. Suicide was completely ruled out back then because the wound angle was totally wrong. But if she carried the murder weapon herself the whole time, then everyone I previously cleared for not having a blade, the bully gay C-street thugs, random homeless guys, delivery riders, or literally anyone walking by, since she carried the weapon herself, anyone crossing her path that night could have easily snatched the blade and struck. My entire chain of logic was completely shattered. Nancheng. I brought that knife up after washing the dishes. She was suddenly standing right in the doorway. Seeing me holding the pillow and staring at the exposed blade, absolute, raw panic flooded her eyes. She was terrified I'd misunderstand. It's okay, you don't need to explain. It's smart for a girl living alone to have good safety awareness. I pulled her into a tight embrace, feeling her rigid, helpless body against mine. Meanwhile, in my eyes, my mind was furiously piecing together every chaotic detail of her murder case from my previous life. This time around, I swear to God, I won't let history repeat itself.